All set. Okay, well, welcome everybody. A little background on who you're talking to here. My name is Mike Mastroianni, currently the director of the Small Business Development Center. Wanted to give you just a little bit of a rundown of what I've done and why I'm here tonight. Original background, I was in education for many years. Moved into a human resources position, got kind of lucky and got into HR training and development, and then became an HR generalist. Then a buddy of mine came to me one day and said, let's quit our perfectly good jobs with benefits and start a business. I went, oh yeah, sure, you know. So well, I don't know why, but my wife bought me a full-length mirror so I could watch myself slowly starve to death. But so we took a risk, and that was the first Gulf War. I'll never forget going to the first client and hearing that on the news and thinking, was this good timing or what? But it all worked out. We spent about 10 years, sold the company after we grew it from the two of us to 5 people in an office in Davenport, Iowa. It was a human resource consulting firm. And then had a couple of bucks from the sale, but no job. So there was a job open at Rock Valley College. And I applied and got that job. I spent 20 years at the college, the last 3 as its president, and retired in 2016. Started a sole proprietorship for human resource consulting, and then came to the chamber. I've got a year stint with them to try to help get some connections made and some funding for them. And have the privilege of working with Edward Casares, who's in the back of the room. Usually Edward would be doing this with me, but he's videotaping tonight. So Edward, like myself, has a very excellent and varied background as an entrepreneur. He's got experience in the alternative energies and solar energy area. He's been a former commercial lender, and he's been with the SBDC for years as the primary consultant. So he is very knowledgeable, and the two of us luckily have a little bit different skill base, so we lateral people back and forth to each other. You might start with me, and then when it's time to do some other types of things, Edward would see you, or it might start with Edward, and then he'll give me a call and say, I got a client that needs to see you. So that's the nice thing about having different backgrounds. What does the SBDC do for us? Well, I think I got a slide on that. Oh, hello. I just wanted a little music for my presentation. There it is. Okay, so the Small Business Development Center, or as we're supposed to say, the Illinois Small Business Development Center at the Chamber, is one of, it's about 31 or 32 of them in Illinois, I think. And they assist small business startups. We help with growth businesses. Both Edward and I will not only help with a business that is just beginning, or with an entrepreneur that just has an idea, but also with businesses that are established. Maybe they're $6 million, they want to get to $10 million, they want to expand, grow, add people. So whatever the case may be, we can help them. What we do is we have the business plan development. We have something called Growth Wheel. It's a really cool process of business planning where it's all electronic. You go on, click on something, and there's drop-down menus. By answering questions and inputting information, it writes the business plan with all the graphs and charts and everything for you. Okay, it's pretty cool. What's that called again? It's called Growth Wheel. So there's that. The business advising, where you just say, look, I just need somebody to sit down and talk to about what I'm doing. You know, from inception to idea. I talked to somebody today that I'm sending down to the Eiger Lab because the idea consists of the need to have a prototype and a CAD program. So they have engineers down there that can design the idea for them and kind of make it so that you can have a product.
Wow.
So,
is that the old Ingersoll down there?
you know, it used to be at there. But then actually the Small Business Development, the Procurement Center, the SCORE was, everybody was out there. That's when I was there.
That's where
and then they moved it from Ingersoll to Rock Valley, and then when Rock Valley...
It's in Rock Valley right now?
No, they moved it from Rock Valley over, right now it's by Woodward, the new Woodward on Perryville.
Woodward in Perryville, the Woodward store?
The Woodward Technology Center, that business. So, so anyway, we also help with trying to assist you with financing. Some people say, hey, I need a loan to start the business. We don't do the work for you. I'm going to get to some questions in just a second, if that's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. And then this way we can make sure, I might be answering what you're looking for just in a second here. So assistance with financing, website development, social media, marketing, and some HR help. Because of our backgrounds, this is something that I've had for 25 years of HR experience. So businesses might say, look, I'm small, I'm not going to do a full-blown search, but I need to know how to hire somebody. It's my first hire. What do I do to try to find qualified talent? How do I interview them, et cetera? In summary, we're cheerleaders, we're coaches, and we are also the voice of reality. Sometimes we're the people that are going to say, you may need a little work on this, or you may need to help yourself a little bit better on the financing side of it before you go to a bank. So we're all three of those things. We're funded by the Small Business Administration out of Washington,
State or DC?
DC. We have match dollars that come from the chamber, and right now Edward and I are also trying to seek funding from banks and commercial lenders, because then that assists our clients. So that's, any questions on that part of it? And did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, you listed tons of cool stuff. I wanted to say, when it comes to website design, which is going to be key to my idea of business, what specifically on website design, what do you help with?
Well, I could turn that over to Edward, who can let you know that real quickly here, because that's his expertise.
Most of the time we try to assist our clients with a platform that is in the market, that is Wix.com. Why we use that one? Because in the past you have to use some programming language, WordPress, that was the normal language that you use to program and make websites. But now there are new platforms, even in GoDaddy, that allow you basically, if you know how to use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Publisher, you can make your website. So the idea why we use this is because the dashboard is so friendly that if the client later on want to take over the website, so in that way they don't depend on us, because we can keep assisting them. Okay?
Right.
But sometimes people want to keep their website current and upload pictures from a workshop or event, so in that way they keep more current their website. Part of my job is teach them and migrate all my knowledge about how to make the basics change, in upgrades in the website to them. But if they still needed some help, because of course I made more websites than them and maybe I know some shortcuts, I'm always keep assisting them all the time. When we start, in SBDC, we are not a one-time sale. We try to develop a relationship with our clients, because in every stage of your business, through the life cycle of your business, you are going to face different challenges.
Right.
And the idea is that we are there to help you and assisting you along all of them.
Thank you. So this slide is kind of funny. It's like BYOB always means something different to us maybe, but in this case it's you want to be your own boss. And most people say, well, I've got some great ideas. I think I'm pretty creative. I got skills I think I could use and service for others, or I think I can make some money, but I need help in developing this idea. So there's some considerations, I think, that of what we probably need to understand as we're going to be doing that. And the first one is, can you do this on your own? I had a guy come to me, it's a friend of mine actually, and he goes, I'm tired of working for the man, I want to be the man. I said, oh, okay, that makes sense. He said, but I don't know if I have the skills to be able to pull this off. So I said, well, I have a profile that I can do, and I said, we don't use that here because it's expensive. But he said, I'll pay anything, I'll do anything, because I don't want to step out into my own business until I know that I probably have the skills to be able to pull that off. So we did the profile, and the profile is pretty accurate, and it gives you a % of fit, a fit index. It's EEO and Equal Employment Opportunity approved, so it's not discriminating or anything. And the profile is pretty accurate. So what happened was, this thing said he's got a 35% chance of being successful as an entrepreneur. And we went over the different aspects of why that was. First of all, he is petrified of speaking to anybody other than one-on-one. So I said, how are you going to sell this thing? Can you go to a chamber meeting and network? Oh, no, I don't want to do that. So as we talked through it, he began to realize there's some skills probably that he doesn't possess. So I didn't tell him he couldn't do it. I said there's one or two things that has to happen. One is you have to strengthen skills that you're not comfortable with. This thing isn't telling you can't do it. It's telling you that if you want to do it, you might have to use some skills that you're not good at. Or you're going to have to find a partner that has skills that you don't have that can complement you. Not like nice suit compliment, but like, doing things that you can't do. So, that's kind of important, I guess, just to understand in ourselves what do I need to do and where am I going to need some help. Perfect client today for that. Person very willing to listen and he says, I know what I don't know. And so I'm here to find out, who do you know where I can get the help that I don't have? So gave him lists of different attorneys, lawyers, accountants, everybody that he might need to access in order for him to be able to do what he can't do on his own, because not all of us can do everything. You have to be driven to succeed, but let me tell you, it's Edward in my experience, if I may be so bold as to speak for Edward too, there's a difference between drive and obsession. We've had the clients that, this is it, I got to do this, my life depends on it, and I'm not listening to the signs nor the dialogue that people are giving. We had one client in particular that we both worked with that just doesn't listen to us. And because I know that I can make this happen, I know that I can make this happen.
Yeah,
so, and it's the same thing, and so it reminds me of a story. I always like to get to a story if I can, of this guy that's in a sports car. He's driving around this mountain, he's having a great time, and brand new sports car, shifting in all these gears, and around the other side, going the other direction, somebody goes, "Pig!" And he goes, what the heck? I didn't do anything to them. What are they calling me names for? And he sped around the corner and hit a pig. And the moral of the story is sometimes when people scream things at you, it's to help you, It's not because they're being mean or something. So it's no good to be going for advising and taking none of the advice. I mean, you're wasting your time and our time. So being driven is good, but you don't want to be so driven that I'm obsessing about it and that I'm not willing to be flexible and to listen to advising that we may have. If we don't know, we give the information to other people. We're not going to give you false information or tell you something just to tell you. So also, can you work independently? They have classes now, and from college I can tell you this, that are totally online. And some people flourish on that. I'm going to get my computer, I'm going to do this. Other people, like myself, would probably have a tough time with the discipline it takes to be able to do that. They need some interaction as well as classes. They have hybrid classes where I can take a little online, do a little bit of talking with groups or in a class every once in a while. So you have to know, well, is this something that you can do? In the LLC that we had, it's called Management Resource Group, which is our partnership with the partners, 5 partners. My job, I'm all by myself all the time and traveling. That's it. It was kind of a joke because I would get home maybe at 10 o'clock at night, and I would leave paperwork for the assistant to do, and then she would have run off the stuff that I need for the next presentation in another city, pick it up. I never saw her. And so she would call me Bond, and I would call her Moneypenny, because it was almost like James Bond traveling all over the planet and never being able to see the people back in the office again. So and it's if you need that, you're going to get it, but you're also spending a lot of days in Holiday Inns and things. So it was just the nature of the business that I was in. It's also, you were everything in the business. You're the promoter, you're the salesperson, you're the marketing individual, you're the accountant. My first assignment, I was all, trying to be real careful. My detail orientation is, And so I sent out the invoice, and I get a call back, and they said, "Mike, we'd love to pay you, but there's no address." It's like, damn, I forgot to put the address on the invoice. I said, "I'm going to fire my accountant." And he goes, "Who's that?" I said, "Me." And I got an accountant, and I thought that, just like I'm saying, if you can't do it, hire somebody that can do it for you. And this wasn't an area of expertise. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Can you plan? It's important that you develop a business plan. And Edward and I get really insistent on making sure that people do a business plan. And I had a client the other day that said, I'm not going to do this plan. It's a waste of my time. I'm not going to get financing. And I said, well, maybe you're not going to get financing, but don't you want to know what steps you need to take and how you're going to get there? I said, if you were a football team and I'm your coach, is it enough for me to tell you go northeast? No. I said, well, what do you need? Well, you need the end zone so you know when you got there. I said, bingo. What else do you need? You need the yard line so you can see how you're doing. I said, well, that's what a business plan's doing for you. It's providing you with the yard lines, how am I doing, and the end zone. Where am I going to end up? Without that, you're going to be floundering. I mean, everybody looks good. It's just like an interviewing. I tell people that I'm teaching interviewing skills to, have the template of what you're looking for. Otherwise, every candidate looks like the perfect candidate. If you don't have it marked down what you need, then I have to take that template and say, Bob matches up, Ernie doesn't, But if I don't have the template, everybody looks good. So it's important, I think, for us to have just a little bit of a self-awareness, and we help people with that a lot. Like I say, our job is cheerleader, coach, but also voice of reality, and to let you know when maybe things might not be working out. We never tell anybody what to do. If we said, you're not going to get a loan from a bank in our opinion, you can still go to a bank, And if you get a loan, you can come back and go, nah, I got the loan. But oftentimes, we can save you some time and money by helping advise clients of what it is that they need to do and not do. So, here's some things I think that people need to think about. First of all, is your idea unique? This guy came into one of our banking clients. Oh, all right. I don't know what that is, but hopefully we're not going to blow up. He said, and he was with his son, an adult son. And the son's kind of slouching in the chair, and the guy said, I got a great idea for business. Could you guys finance it? And they said, well, we'll consider it. What do you want to do? I want to start a pizza parlor in Rockford. And he said, okay. And the son's rolling his eyes, And he said, well, why would you want to do that? And he said, there just aren't enough of them. And the son said, can you do me a favor? Could you tell my dad a list of, at the top of your head, the pizza, and so the banker names about 10 pizza places, and the guy went, oh, obviously he didn't do his homework. You kind of have to have a unique idea, or if you're going to do a pizza, what's it going to be like that makes me want to get your pizza over one of the 750 other pizza places that there are in town? You know what I'm saying? I actually have a successful client who makes cookies. And you might think, geez, you could go to the Schnucks and get a box of those, or Meijer grocery store, and why would you want to buy? Well, we kind of talked, and she's got edible artwork. I mean, they're beautiful. They're nothing like you would probably be able to buy in the grocery store with a little icing on it. These things are creations. And so she started selling them in a different way. Selling them in art scene rather than at city market scenes. So because it looks like artwork that you could eat. So just spinning that a little bit, that's what makes her product unique, and that's why people will spend money buying hers versus going to the Meijer and buying a bunch of them at the grocery store. The second thing is there a demand. Edward and I were kind of working together to try to be the voice of reason for a client that was spending about $75 in materials and hoping to charge $250 for a product that there were thousands of them, one of them that you can even get for $19.95 that looked better and functioned better than this person's product. And so I went on Google, and I was the dream killer, Here's the 6 pages of products of what you want to do that's already being done for cheaper than what you can do it. Oh, so then we talked with him about how do I make that unique? What are some things we can do to make this different from the other 300 or 400 of them that are on the market? So it's not no, it's just it's going to have to be a different angle, or why would I get yours? And then why you versus competition? Sometimes it's price, sometimes I have extra service, sometimes it's the personal touch. I have one client that usually you would have to go to the office, that they go to you. So that's something that's kind of nice. Maybe it's credentialing. You have a credential that other people don't have. Additional perks that you provide or the competitor doesn't provide. And when you do your business plan, it asks for these things. And then in the business plan, when you get to Edward then to develop the websites or marketing, he has that, what makes you different than everybody else already. So he can start developing a marketing plan around why your product would be better than somebody else's. So there's some things that you got to worry about. And number one, this is a question we used to ask later that we're now asking right away. How's your credit score and credit history? What's your financing going to be like? We used to sit there, go through this whole process, spend 2 or 3 days of our time with a client, and then find out they got a credit score of 430 and 2 bankruptcies. And they haven't paid taxes in 3 years. Well, you're just not going to get a loan, you know. It's going to be real tough for you to go to a bank and get money. So now we say, let's take a look at that. What are the scores? What are your credit history? Do you have collateral? If you get $100,000, let's say you need $100,000 for your business and you go to a bank, they're going to give you at most 80%. 20% has to come from you. So you got to have some startup money somewhere. Mm-hmm. Is it a gift from a relative? Is it home equity loan? Is it, you know, I don't know where you're going to get it from, but you have to have some money so that you have some skin in the game. No bank's going to just give you a check for the entire amount. And sometimes we usually will ask, sometimes we ask people, if your credit score isn't so good, if your financial background isn't so good, we might be able to work with you on financial literacy programs to help you get your credit score higher. You know, personally, there's a relative of mine that she's an adult and she still has to get her dad to co-sign on a car in her 40s because of a bankruptcy 10 years ago. But what she's going to do is she's going to take the father off of the loan after 1 year of making these payments, take over the payments, pay it off early, and now that credit score is going to skyrocket. So that'll be her credit score then. So, you know, you have to do what you have to do to be able to get the opportunity to get funding. I used to joke that banks will loan you money when you can prove you don't need any. You know, but in a way, it's kind of true. They're going to be able to give you the money when you got a little money aside, when you've got something maybe that you own, or at least if your credit score is, what would you say, Edward, 650?
Minimum.
650 at the minimum, or higher. So if yours is in the 400s, you got some work to do before you're going to get capital. There's also unseen costs. There might be time costs, people costs. You might have a great idea, but it's going to be an environmental hazard. I found the perfect building, yeah, but there's asbestos, asbestos and lead in the building. You've got to abate. You know, I mean, there's unseen costs sometimes that you have to think about. What's it going to cost me for permits? Some woman came in to one of the programs I'm going to tell you about in a minute, called Business First. And she was wanted to start a restaurant and found out that it was $10,000 for the liquor license, and they just got up and left. I mean, if you don't have the money for the liquor license and you can't serve liquor at a restaurant that's used to serving liquor, it's probably going to be tough for you to be able to be successful at that. So what about beer and wine? Well, that's fine. Okay, we got to go. You know, and there's a lot more permits than that. And will you make any money after expenses? I had a person came in to me and said, I'm going to make t-shirts. I got a perfectly good full-time job, but I'm going to quit and make t-shirts. I said, well, let's do some research before you quit your job. Let's find out what it costs you to buy the shirt, the ink, the printing expense, your time, and what your time per hour would be worth, and then what you think that you can charge for it. She goes, how would I know? I said, well, you go online or you go to some of the t-shirt places and find out what they're charging. You can't be $50 if you can get it for $5 at the mall, right? So she did her homework and came back and said, I think I'm going to keep my job. I said, why is that? She said, I'd have to sell 25,000 shirts to break even. And I said, okay, good idea. So now I saw her the other day, and she's happy. She's doing this part-time. She had enough money for a little extra money for Christmas and things, and she still has her job with the benefits. So, you know, you don't have to start the business, I'm going to jump in the water and learn how to swim or die. You know, you can stick your toe in the water and try to do it a little bit at a time or on a part-time basis before you would go off on your own if need be. Where do we get this money from? Well, a lot of times it's personal savings or a home equity loan. It could be friends or family. We would recommend they don't write you paperwork. They give you a gift, knowing, wink, wink, that you're going to pay them back, because otherwise now you have a loan and you're trying to get another loan. So it can be loans. Some people ask me about angel investors. Edward, do we even have a real strong angel network anymore in town? I don't know of much that they've been financing, the ones that are here.
Most are in Chicago.
Yeah, you're not going to get anybody in the Rockford area, I don't think.
Can you explain that, please?
Angels are people that are going to give you money, but then they want equity in your business, just like Shark Tank. So let's say you had a little manufacturing business, and it's a great product. You're going to make these bottles out of metal. I don't know. So they say, the angel investor will say, tell you what, Todd, I'll give you $250,000 to get you started, but I want 25% of your business. And you're going, ooh, geez, you know.
What's the difference between an angel investor and a venture capital investor?
Is that similar, Edward? I'm drawing a blank here. Between venture capital and angel investor, is there any difference?
Venture capital, most of the time they are looking for an equity on your business.
Right. Where an angel may.
At the very beginning, you know, in the other case, they are placing capital on you and they are expecting a return of investment.
All right. So in the angel, yeah, the angel is going to want to pay back. The venture capitalist is going to want equity in the company. Thank you for that. I get that confused all the time. So you end up being able to get money, but there's not. It's not free. And some people think that that's going to happen. Grants, you know, there just aren't $1 million of grant money waiting for you to get. We have at times grant money and funding that's available, which is great. There was a grant in April, May, and June that was available for women and minority businesses and business incubators, which are going to be the places that are going to help people develop businesses or grant special skills. We had, I'd say, between Edward and I, 50 people apply for that grant, and no one got it. So, you know, the odds of getting grant money are slim. And so, you know, yeah, that might be out there, but that is, that's not always as available as people would think. Somebody came in the other day and said, isn't there a grant I could get? I said, not right now, there isn't, unless, the only grant I know of right now is if you have a business that was ruined because of flooding in last spring. Otherwise, I don't know of any right now at the moment. And she said, well, what about you? Can you loan me the money? And I said, well, I got to tell you something. I'm 67 years old and I'm back to work. Does that tell you anything? If I had the money, I don't think I'd be back to work right now. So, no, I'm not going to loan anybody any money. So there's that. The moral of that story is, you know, don't risk everything. If you can do it gradually, and if you don't have the funding, you may have to kind of work toward that. Yes, ma'am.
Isn't there like a confidential paperwork that you can get and then see about companies making it for you?
Yes, if you have, and I think we've worked together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I know what you're talking about. There are some places that when you get to that point, will do a prototype or manufacture that for you. And Eiger Lab is the one that I'm thinking of that's down on Perryville Road by Woodward Corporation.
What's it called?
Eiger Lab, E-I-G-E-R. And they will do it, but they charge you. That's not a free service. So,
On Perryville?
yeah, it's on Perryville.
Okay.
So, I'll be seeing you again, I'm sure, because we talk once in a while, so I'm happy to give you more info on that, or even after the class. Okay, so legal entities.
Okay.
This is complicated, and I got like a little bit I can tell you tonight, but what's right for you, what I've been doing, and I think Edward probably has done this as well, we give you like the water version, but if you want soup, you're going to have to probably talk to an accountant and or attorney to get a little more detail on what it is that you're looking for. In essence, the sole proprietor, sole means one. I'm going to go into this business, it's just me, I'm going to be, not have a partner. It's good for low startup costs, it's easy to start. There's not a lot of legal restrictions, but there's some personal liability. You have your house and car and bank account is also free game if anybody wants to go after you. Yes, sir?
When it comes to sole partnership, if you're under that in the future, do you have to change that before you hire additional help?
Yeah, well, not for hiring, but if you want to have other partners in the business. You say, I'm going to go with Todd and the two of us are going to work together. You can't be a sole proprietor, only one.
Okay.
So yes, you're right.
For sole proprietorship, when you said you have personal liability, if you're selling clothing items or shoes or something like that, what kind of liability would you be, what would you be liable for?
Well, first of all, are you doing it online?
Yes,
Okay, so you don't have a facility.
correct.
Because sometimes if you have a facility, I slip and fall in your facility, there's liability.
Right.
You could have some issues with, I want my money back, I got injured by using whatever your product was. You never know. I mean, it's always, even in the consulting business, where I'm just not even, when I have my sole proprietorship, I'm not really doing anything that would cause harm. But someone could take advice that doesn't work, they're mad and they want to come after me. I took out an insurance policy.
So would you say it's typically, okay, which one is the better idea to go after? Making an LLC or having insurance, as much insurance?
Well, and I think either way, there are pros and cons to each one.
Right.
We would be probably talking with you further on that, because this is like I say, this is the Cliff Note version of this.
10,000.
And we would also advise that, I know I do, that once we even talk, that you do some research online and also see about an accountant or a lawyer to advise. Because yeah, they're going to tell you what makes sense for you. Hold on one second if you would. LLCs, it's multiple partners, it's a little ease in transferring ownership. If I want to say that now Myrna is going to own this percent and I'm going to own this percent, you don't have to go through a whole lot of rigmarole for that. I can have different classes of owners, minority partners, majority partners, and all of that. The fees are a little higher to incorporate. Some things can get kind of complicated. For example, one of the partners says, I want to go. You're going, oh geez, we thought we were going to all be together and all be until the company dissolves, and then we'll all get money from the company. Well, what do you do when one wants to go? Well, then it gets a little funky. Or unfortunately, when some person dies, how do you divide that up? Does the spouse have any rights? So there's some complications with that. If you're also doing business in different states, there's some complications as well, like filing your individual tax returns in every state that you're doing business. So there's pros and cons with each kind, but it is, at least you can have multiple partners. At least there's some limited protection, business assets versus personal assets. But then there's other complications with that.
How limited is the protection?
I don't know like a dollar amount or anything like that, but I know that, for example, when we had our partnership, we had the computer equipment, our facility, our bank accounts, all of that, and somebody's probably going to go after that before they would go after my house and car, you're still going to get insured, trust me, no matter what you have. C Corps, these are separate legal entities. There's limited liability, there's stockholders when you're doing this. You can transfer ownership through sale of stock. I can sell stock to somebody, then now, they are, you've seen this in the movies, right? Where I get more stock than somebody else so that I'm a managing, I have a managing, boy, I'm drawing a blank here. Interest, yeah, thank you, majority interest, geez, I'll tell you.
51%.
Yeah. It's a lot of complex rules and regs. Record keeping's a pain, and you get taxed on both profits and dividends. So again, there's pros and cons with each thing. S Corps, a little bit easier in terms of shareholders, restrictions on the number and types of shareholders, limitations on classes of stocks. Again, you got to be an accountant to be able to advise you clearly on this is, the extent of my knowledge is what I read on it. And what you would read on the internet wouldn't be enough for you to know which one's best for you. So there's 3 people that I always advise people talk to. An accountant, have a lawyer available just in case you have to sign paperwork or do anything, where even an hour of it would be worth your while. And somebody that can insure you. Whether it's casualty or liability or any kind of business insurance. No matter what you're doing, you're probably going to need all 3 of those at some point in time.
Mike, do you mean a tax accountant specifically, or a personal finance accountant? I mean, are there different levels?
Yeah, my accountant does both.
Okay, so you
Yeah,
can get them
and that's, yeah.
like lawyers, they can specialize.
You can specialize in one thing or another, but mine has, he helped me through when we had our LLC, then we decided for what I was doing, the sole proprietorship would be the best. He's doing my returns on all of that. I have,
estate planning too and stuff?
no, that's a different person.
It's
Yeah,
all business stuff.
business stuff.
What was the other, when you mentioned that you needed 3 different people, what were the other ones? The lawyer, the accountant?
Oh, and probably somebody in insurance.
Okay.
At some point in time, it's always good to have a insurance person or some insurance that you can get.
And can I ask you a question?
Sure.
About sole partnership? My question was, I'm trying to remember my question now.
It's okay.
When it came to sole partnership, let's throw the hypothetical die that it's successful and it grows into a company. My question is this: can I keep it from having to have stock?
Sure, you could do whatever you want to do.
So
It can always be just you as the sole owner with a lot of people that you work with, but
So if I was to get like hypothetically speaking, like a company that's big enough and could potentially have stock, I can opt for the no stock option.
well, you can decide that you're going to sell stock or not and just keep all the money yourself.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, if you have other people working for you, you're paying them, but you can have one owner, you can have multiple owners.
Okay.
So you can have shareholders or no shareholders. But it's always best to talk with somebody like in an accounting field that helps you decide what's going to be best for you. Because there are things that we don't do as advisors. We're not accountants, we're not lawyers, we're not tax advisors, So it's best that we know what our limits are too, so we don't lead you astray. Would you say that's true, Edward? So, okay, yes, sir.
And then my other question for sole partnership is liability-wise. My product is more electronic than anything else, the idea I have for it. So my question is, let's say they didn't like my stories, or let's say they didn't like my video game, or they didn't like the animation. If I'm selling a product that is purely entertainment, that appears just on your computer screen, and they don't like it, can they still sue me?
Probably if they believe that you don't met their expectations or something like that, probably they can. So that's why it's really important that you create a kind of contract or with a contract or agreement in order to avoid. It's like, for example, you can be a consultant. You can start your own business as a sole proprietor. Basically, you are the business.
Right.
but you provide a wrong advice and the person lose money. Or you say something that probably misleading a person and lose money or get some damage. So it depends on the kind of business, but it's highly recommended to, investigate very, very insurance. So that will you follow yourself. So you can make any business, but it's highly recommended. It depends on the kind of product, the kind of service that you get a reason and insurance to cover some legal fees if you have to defend yourself against an unfair suit.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So I'm not a lawyer, but typically in video games, they'll have an end user license agreement that you have to accept every time you log into that and use that product for the first time. And typically those have a no suit clause, which means that as soon as you agree to that, as long as the EULA is actually legal, because they can't say, oh, we can break the law and then you can't do anything about it. So that's an illegal EULA. But as long as the EULA is solid and you agree to it, that's pretty much final.
Okay.
Typically, you'll have a way to get a refund via Steam or whatever, but yeah.
Okay.
That's how they
What about selling your idea? If you don't want any part of it, find a company that could.
Well, that's a good question. We just worked with a client that had a great idea, developed it, and got it made, got the prototype made for it, is now getting orders, but wants to be able to sell this more than just here and has no idea how to do that. So what they're going to do is they're going to go to distributors. They're going to have, the three of us are going to, he's in California, he's in New York, and I'm in Chicago. We'll take the product and we'll sell it for them, but then we're going to get a portion of the funds, the consignment.
Kind of what
And
they
it-
do with movies?
Yeah, just like that.
Can I
And-
go to you and say, hey, I have this idea, and you're in this kind of business, and would you like to buy it?
For where you are right now, knowing your business, you're at the stage where you wanted to develop the product and then distribute the product. And both of those things, you need to talk to Mike at Iger Lab, because he can talk about distributors as well as developing. So like I say, I'll give you some info on that later. Yes, sir.
Question, with distributors, let's say you're trying to be independent, releasing your own stories and stuff like I had just briefly mentioned earlier. If you're trying to be independent, is it a good idea to have distributors?
Well, even if you have protections so that no one can take your idea or steal it, you're going to have to market it or you're never going to sell anything. So what you do is you protect yourself and then you let other people. It's hard, I know what you're saying. I'm giving up my baby to somebody else, but that's the only way you're going to be able to make any money on it, is you have to trust that there's going to be people that will honor their agreements, sell your product and not steal a product. There haven't really run across that other than one person so far that we've worked with that said that they worked with somebody they thought were going to be an honest partner, and the person took the idea, changed the patent on it, and developed their own thing, which can happen. So even when you're patenting something, let's say it's something with 6 processes, I could change 1 or 2 of those processes and it's a whole different story. It's not the same patent anymore. Let me get to you in just a second so we can get to the next portion here.
Sorry.
So business planning, executive summary. Usually you're going to have part of the business plan that explains what it is that your product's doing and why it's unique. And you're going to have details in terms of the product, the service, your competition, your market. What are you going to charge? What do you think you'll earn? What are your profit margins going to be after expenses? Sometimes people say, well, I can make $10,000 on this a month. Well, are you making $10,000 a month? What about the $8,500 that you're needing to develop it? That product I was telling you folks about a few minutes ago, where they have distributors, they'll probably make 7% profit. Of the profit that they make will be to the developers, the people that You have to pay somebody to manufacture it, somebody to ship it, somebody to distribute it, your salespeople. By the time you get all these things, marketing expenses, by the time and employees to be able to produce this and do the things that you need to do, you'll probably, at least in their case, probably be about 7 to 10% that they'll have. So, a lot when you put a lot into it. You got to figure all these things out to know what it is that I'm going to make and how much money I'm actually going to put in my pocket. Those details kind of become important. We also look at other types of things like, do you have a sales and marketing plan? How are you going to distribute this? These people thought, well, when do we do the brochures and mailings? And I said, well, nobody does it anymore. You got to see Edward and get your social media, marketing, and website up and running. That's how you're going to sell. Nobody sends out 500 brochures anymore. I don't know how no one reads those. So you have to be able to market on the internet. How will you operate? Are you going to be, and in this case too, we had to tell the people, you can't be doing this in the garage anymore. As soon as you get an order, you're going to need to have a way to make a bunch of them, just in case you get a big order for them. There was a guy, it's my famous story, he was in town, he was an entrepreneur, he went through the Small Business Development Center at the time. They had an entrepreneurship center, went through that. He had a harmonica that he made, and it was very unique. You outside of the harmonica, and it was beautiful. It was customized. Instead of a stamping process to make the reeds, he actually had something that were screwed on, so that it was an absolutely perfect sound. And people like Stevie Wonder were buying his harmonica. So he thought, I could make these things for the common human instead of selling it to the famous people like Bob Dylan or Stevie Wonder. I can make a lot of money at that. So he decided he was going to try to get the word out. Well, he got Hohner Corporation, the big harmonica. Any harmonica that you buy in a store, is probably going to be a Hohner harmonica. Bought, 25. And he just got the order like that.